Hi, Sai.
Hi, Banu.
Yep, all good.
Network, everyone. Yeah, chat is enabled.
That's good. Is Murli joining? Did you check with him?
I hope so. I did send a message. Let me re-message him.
Yep, Murli is here. Good.
Oh, he's here. Perfect.
Yep, Murli will do the regular president honors. Okay,
Yep.
introduce Murli and hand it over the deck, hand it over to him, and you can go through the slides until the speakers comes. Okay.
Uh, Let me also find the speakers. Good. Numbers are loading in. Found Devashri promoting to panelist. Perfect. Devashri is in.
Hi, Sai.
Hi, Devashri. Can you let me know if you can share your screen? That will let me know if you can actually share your presentation for today.
Yes. Share screen. Request, send request.
Yep, accepted. Yeah, I just wanted to test it. We would like to start with our chapter announcements. They were saying then probably we'll switch you over. We'll provide an introduction about you.
Okay. Yeah. So,
I'll take it back. No worries.
okay.
Can you share the master presentation?
I am doing 1 second, Mulri. I hope it's accessible. It's visible as well. Murli or Banu, can you all confirm if you can see the screen?
Yes.
Perfect. We are at 6:01. More than happy for you guys to decide when you guys want to start. Murli or Banu?
Hello all, welcome. Let's give a couple of more minutes for others to join. I see from all over the world joining it. Really appreciate it from Philippines or someone from joining at 3 a.m. in the morning. That's really nice to see across the world. Greetings from Zambia. Greetings from SF. Greetings from who is that from 3 a.m. Really appreciate it.
Turk has
All over
joined.
the world. Tanzania. Wow. Very nice to see we have about 100 and plus have joined. So let's give a couple of more minutes for others to join and then we should be able to start shortly.
Perfect.
Very cool. Turkey, Massachusetts, Uganda. Oh, nice. 2 a.m. in Nigeria. Oh my goodness. Wow. So I see someone is asking for CPE hours. Typically, the CPE hours you should be able to log into your portal and then go to the event that you have attended, and your CPE should be able to be downloaded automatically. In case if you are not able to see the CPE against your event that you have attended, it might be because you might have joined with a different email IDs or with a different uh, webinar Zoom IDs. Maybe that might be the challenge. So please fill out the CPE form and we will be able to take care of it offline. So, Sai, it's 6:03 now. So please start the webinar and then we can take it forward.
Perfect. Thanks, Murli. Hi, all. As you rightly pointed, there are many people who are joining us from 2 a.m., 3 a.m., God knows what around the clock as well. So, yeah, thank you all for joining from round around the clock. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the June events of ISACA Silicon Valley webinar. Today we have two speakers. One's talking more about how you can secure yourself more specifically from the supply chain attacks, and the other one is a fireside chat who I had to like fight around from my organization to get him in. So finally I have Kirk Anderson. So I feel like today is going to be a great session, so I'll move forward and give it back to you, Murli, to start ahead with the chapter announcements.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sai. Welcome again. This is Murali, the president of ISACA Silicon Valley chapter. So go to the next slide.
Yep.
I promise you I won't be in the middle between you and the awesome presenters. I'm just going to take a few minutes to introduce about the chapter who are all new to this one. And then we wanted to share what we are doing it before I hand it over back to Sai. So here is the quick agenda for today. As you see that it's going to be first few minutes of our agenda chapter announcements. And then we have two awesome sessions. And this time, based on the feedback that we received last time, we have introduced the fire chat, and we really appreciate Greg to join us today from Lending Club. And I'm sure that it's going to be a very interesting fire chat with Greg. So looking forward to that, my side. So going to the next slide. So the CPE certificates, like I mentioned, please, you have to be present at least 15 minutes is the recommended or is the required by the CPE of ISACA. So you're supposed to be, attendance of minimum 50 minutes per session. So in case if there are the polling questions have been asked, we are encouraging you to attend those questions. And maybe if you're not seeing that, it might be because of pop-ups or some of the phones might have been blocking it. But we do understand those kind of technology issues, but we will ensure that your CPEs are set. And the CPE certificates are primarily being automatically processed going forward. So in whatever the portal that you're working on, if you log into our portal or to our website, isacasiliconvalley.org, you should be able to get the CPEs automatically. In case if you are not able to get it, please do email us and we can look into it and see why you have a challenge. Next slide, please. Okay, moving on. So these are all our board members who are helping us at the background to get this kind of events to be organized. We have about 17 board members working tirelessly at the background, including we also have committee members like Sai. Thank you, Sai. He's our full-time committee member. He's also helping us in running this program. We also have several other committee members who are helping us tirelessly at the background for running our chapter. Thank you all for doing this one. So moving to the next slide. And this again, you can see some awesome faces who are helping us in running our chapter. So again, like I mentioned, this is our website. Moving on to the next one, it's isacasiliconvalley.org. In case if you have any challenges in getting into our website, or if you have any suggestions and improvements to be made, please do let us know. We are still working on our website. Still we'll be happy to accommodate all those updates in our future request. Next one. So I know many of you might be the member of the local chapter. So in case if you like to be part of ISACA Silicon Valley, we'll be more than welcome to invite you and welcome you to our chapter. Some of the key advantages to be as an ISACA Silicon Valley member is most of the events, whatever that we are doing it, we'll give the subsidized or the low cost fees that will be coming in. And we also have an opportunity to look into the previous webinars, and other online events will be hosted primarily for our chapter members. This will include all the review courses that we have done it in the past and in the present. So that's a key advantages that we wanted to give. In case if you like to take those advantages, please do become as a member. And to add to that, as of now, we have a half price going on. So in case if you're not a member, if you like to become a new member, you just need to pay only the half price for the ISACA HQ, and you can become as an ISACA member. Okay, moving on. So join us the June event. Like we have another exciting in-person event coming up soon in June. So in case if you are in Bay Area, please do join us. And here is the QR code. Again, these are all available in the portal. If you go to the portal, events.portal, you should be able to see all the events that have been listed out. Excellent.
And then quick add-on to Murli, this QR will directly redirect to the new portal as well. So it should directly take you to the registration page.
That's correct. Awesome. Okay, so many of you might be asking what is this? Is that we have a startup incubator program. As we are in the Silicon Valley, we wanted to help and support all the startup folks. And in case if you are a startup person, or if you know someone, if you like to be part of that, please do let us know. We'll be happy to support you as part of the incubator program. We have it as part of that, you can showcase your startup. We can also be part of it as an advisory or mentors for the startup. And you can also be as a part of Design Partners. So there are a lot of opportunities available to be part of this specific startup incubator program. We have, if you go to our portal, we have a lot of informations available. Please take a look at it and please do reach out to us, and we'll be happy to accommodate you as part of this particular program. Moving on. Okay, the key things that is happening this year is going to be the ISACA Silicon Valley annual conference that is happening in the Santa Clara Convention Center. We do need a lot of volunteers, local and in remote. So in case if you like to be part of this, please do let us know, as we need a lot of volunteers to run the two-day big event, specifically focusing on the GRC engineering and GRC focused conference that is happening right in the Bay Area, right in Santa Clara Convention Center. Please mark the date. It's going to be on 27th and 28th. Early bird registration is already on. Go to the next slide. They should be having a QR code, which I'll try to share it in the chat. So please do register and be part of it. So with this, just a quick one, and please do become as a member so that you can watch the webinars, the registrations, all the recorded webinars will be available exclusively for ISACA Silicon Valley members. In case if you are interested in speaking, volunteering, sponsoring, please do reach out to us at board@isacasiliconvalley.org. Okay, next slide. Okay, with this, I will turn it back to Sai. Thank you, Sai, for running this. Thank you, the speakers, especially Devashri. Really appreciate your time of here and sharing your thoughts in specifically in software, supply chain area.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Mulri. With that, I know I'll be off by a couple of minutes. Devashri, I think if you overrun by a couple of minutes, that's okay. We'll try to accommodate as well. So everyone we have, Devashri, we tried getting her last month. Unfortunately, we couldn't, probably due to schedules and other stuff as well, but we tried hard. We have Devashri here again. She has her expertise in AI/ML. I know in 2026, who doesn't want, but she's been in AI/ML expertise for the past probably 10 years or so, and she focuses on open source side area. And I'll probably hand it over to her to explain more about what she wants to explain in terms of how open source AI risk is a lot. I mean, I could do, but probably coming from her is probably more important, and also explains about how she can also be secured in terms of how software as exploitability is changing with the day-by-day risk, with day-by-day governance and day-by-day systems as we all scale within the changes in architectures as well. So with that ahead, I'll probably hand it over to Devashri to explain about today's session, a unified layer for software supply chain and compliance. With that to you, I'm handing over to you, Devashri. You can start sharing your screen.
Thanks, Sai, and thanks, Murli. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Let me share. So before I share, a small introduction. My name is Devashri. I am an independent researcher focusing on the open source governance, software supply chain, and cybersecurity risk management. I helped organizations move beyond static checklist kind of security and focusing on practical solution that works in the real world. Let's get started, shall we? Okay. Today, I would like to discuss what I believe is the next gen for the software supply chain governance, a shift from visibility to decision making, a framework called a unified intelligence layer that helps making this shift possible. I'm not able to go to the next slide. Just a minute. Yeah, the next slide. Okay. The question has changed. Over the last decade, the software industry has invested heavily in visibility. We have built tools, standards, reports that help organizations understand the software ecosystem. We have identified components, detects vulnerability, tracks licensing, and document dependencies with far greater accuracy than ever before. However, despite of all this progress, organizations still struggle with the fundamental questions like, why did we decide it was safe to release? Increasingly, this question have been asked many times by the executives, auditors, regulators, customers, and security leads. Earlier, the questions were different. Earlier, we struggled like the questions for what's in our software, what's in our package, is it vulnerable? But now, mostly the questions are, is it safe to release or not? Let's take this question one by one. What's in our software? This is being answered now with the reports like SBOM and TPN, the third-party notices report, which provides a detail of component license, package, version, and URL details. Is it vulnerable is answered by adding Cyclone DX and VEX to the SBOM reports. So we are still answering these questions fairly good. The most difficult question is why did we decide that this release was safe? And surprisingly, many organizations struggle to answer this question. Next slide. Let's take a closer look of the governance landscape today we have. Evidences are fragmented. Right now, we have a lot of different pieces of information. Here on the screen, you can see there are a lot of acronyms like SBOM, that is Software Bill of Material, VEX, this is Vulnerability Exploit Exchange, TPN, that is Third Party Notices Report, TMBOM, TMBOM is uh, Threat Modeling Bill of Material, and AI VEX is basically the AI behavioral risk. Don't worry, by the end of this talk, these acronyms will either make sense to you guys or you will be confidently pretending that they do. This was a joke. Let's go next. Okay. To understand how software governance has evolved, let's go back to 15, 20 years ago. Organizations struggled with the basic problem. Organization needs a way to understand what component exists inside the software. This leads to a software composite analysis tool. There are many software composite analysis tools in the market, like you have Black Duck, you have Sneak, you have Code Insight, you have Palamida, you have Anchor. Eventually, these tools generate reports called as SBOM reports and TPM reports. This is a significant achievement. SBOM tells what's inside the package. I often describe SBOM as a software equivalent to a food label. When you buy a package of cookies, you turn around and you see the ingredient list like sugar, flour, chocolate chips, butter, etc. Similarly, SBOM tells you the same thing, what components are included within the application. But alone the ingredient list does not tell the product is healthy or not. Originally, when SBOM was created, it was mostly manual and unstructured data document. The introduction to the SBOM started, it was basically an Excel or PDF file. So we introduced SBOM, SPDX format to the SBOM, which made it machine readable. This was a big shift. Now, whenever the client asks for an SBOM, it is a machine readable document. As we move forward to the supply chain, more things added on. People wanted a shift from the content to the vulnerabilities. What people wanted to know, which component are useful or which component introduce risk. So the addition was done, like Cyclone DX was added to SBOM, which enrich SBOM with the vulnerability details. Next, we added VEX, that is Vulnerability Exploit Exchange. VEX attempted an answer to a very particular questions. A vulnerability exists. There might be a false positive. We have many vulnerabilities reported nowadays. But does it matter? Does it affect the deployment? Is the exploitation real? VEX helps reducing unnecessary remediation efforts by providing context. In simple terms, it helps answering, should you actually panic? Let's go next. No, to go back. Next, we have the TPM, the third party notices report. This is again the report which comes from these CAR tools, and basically these are legal obligation report which covers open source licensing requirement like the license detail, attribute statement, SPDX header, legal compliance requirement. Open source is not only about security, it is about legal responsibility as well. TPM helps organizations satisfies those obligations. The next one is TM bomb. This is a very new concept. TM bomb is thread modeling bill of material. Why this is new? Thread modeling is there from many years. Traditionally, thread modeling offers identify risk during the design and the architecture phase. During those phases, we review it. However, the common challenge with the thread modeling, the older thread modeling, is that the result often remains trapped inside the document. The analysis is performed, the findings are recorded, and then we don't use it in the runtime. That's where the concept of TM bomb is introduced so that we can use it during the runtime as well. This concept of TM bomb attempts to, bridge the gap, connecting design time and understanding to the runtime governance. This is called TM bomb. The next is AI Vex. We all are using AI. All organizations are using AI. So the organization deploy an AI system, a new category of the risk emerge, like prompt injection, model manipulations, data leakage, unsafe outputs, and autonomous decision making. These risks do not fit into our traditional vulnerability management framework. The important point is that these artifacts provide different values. SBOM provides inventory, VEX provide vulnerability content, TPM provide compliance context, threat modeling provides architectural context, AI provides behavioral context. The problem is not lack of evidence. We have enough evidence right now, a lot of data. The problem is fragmentation. Each artifact exists independently. Each artifact answers different question, and none of them provides a complete picture by themselves. Next. Why governance break? The challenge is all the informations exist independently. Each artifact speaks different language. Each team reviews different evidences, and each team often reaches at a different conclusion. Let's take an example. Imagine a release candidate approaches a product deployment or a release. What normally happens? The security teams reviews vulnerability reports, the compliance teams reviews license obligations, the architect teams reviews threat modeling, and the operational teams review runtime errors. Each team evaluates the same piece of software system differently. Yet, each teams arrive at a different recommendation. One says, oh, it's safe to release. The another might say, oh, please delay. We still have a lot of work. The another team's request mitigation. The another team might ask for additional review or for an exceptions. Who is correct in this? According to me, or the reality is they might all be correct into their individual perspective. The problem is that the governance becomes subjective. Decisions often depends on the reviewer examination and the evaluation. Two organizations can review identical information and arrive at the same conclusion or different conclusion. Even when the same organization have different reviews, may produce different outcomes. Basically what happened, this create confusion, big problems like inconsistency, lack of explainability, or difficulty in audits. That's where we get caught. When the auditor comes and asks, why did you approve this release? The answer was often based on the conversations, meetings, email, or institutional knowledge. And those explanations do not scale at all. Do you guys agree? Let's go next.
Do you
Every
probably
era.
want to launch, Devashri, the poll that you wanted to send me?
I think that it's on the 6th. I think this slide, let me finish this slide and then I
Oh, it's on
launch.
the next one? Gotcha.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Every era solves a blind spot. What does that mean? If we look back at the software governance history, we can see a pattern. Each generation solved a blind spot from the previous generation. First, we lacked inventory, as BOM solved inventory visibility. Then we lacked vulnerability content. VEX improved vulnerability understanding. Then we lacked threat visibility. Threat modeling explained risk awareness. Now we are facing another blind spot. We possess evidences, a lot of evidences, a lot of data, but we lack systematic mechanism for converting evidences into the decision making. This is a challenge unified intelligence layer is attempting to address. Yes, Sai, you can launch the poll questions. Thank you.
Thanks for that. I have launched the first poll. It should be available for everyone. And if you cannot see it, it is probably blocked by your browser, as Murli mentioned. So I would love for you to look at your cookies, or it might be popped at your pop-up section. Just an FYI, the participation for the polls is determined for your CPEs. And we only have one more poll left, since we have the second session as a fireside chat. I'm gonna wait another 15 seconds before I end this poll. Perfect. I hope the results are visible for everyone. So the answer pretty much was D, which 50% of you all got right. And probably Devashri can explain why the other ones were not a clear fit. Devashri, if you're speaking, you probably are on mute.
Yeah. It is again perspective driven. The answer is D, correct. This again depends on the organization and also the perspective, how mature is your organization to have this kind of incidents, and so that's why the answer is D. You should have policies and procedures in place to but some organization also might go for a meeting Slack rooms or threads for the security engineers. So the correct answer, according to me, is D. But it depends on their risk appetite of the organizations, of the team, how their system is built in.
Got it. Thanks. And if you have any questions to answers to that, you can probably use the Q&A section to ask before she closes the session out. And I'm gonna let Devashri continue. Devashri, please go ahead.
Okay, I have to again share, right? Welcome back. Shall I start? Okay.
Yes.
Introductions. Okay. Introducing the unified security metrics. What unified secure intelligence layer? Not the security. Unified intelligence layer. The core idea is very simple. What it is? What if the S-bomb, VEX, which we have already discussed, what are these acronyms and what does this mean? So what if the S-bomb, VEX, TPM, thread modeling, and AI, AI VEX artifactories were treated as input? Presently, everything is treated as input. We get the SBOM report, we get the third-party report, notices report, and we check and we provide it to the customer client. So it's an output report. So what I'm suggesting is, what if we don't treat it as an output report, we treat it as an input report, input to a decision-making system. So we take the purpose of unified security, unified intelligence layer is to aggregate evidences from multiple sources and transform these evidences into consistent governance outcome. Instead of reviewing dozens of reports, now we have so many fragmented reports outside, disconnected. Instead of reviewing dozens of reports, organization received one decisions. The focus shift from collecting evidences to understanding the outcome. Data entered into the system, decision emerged from the system. That's what I'm trying to suggest in this unified intelligence layer. So, and the decision can come out like it can be, after the system aggregates the data, the decision can be either you block it, you allow it, you remediate it, or you document it. Let's discuss it more later. Next slide. Okay. I'll tell you how the framework works now. The process begins by collecting the evidence. We already have a lot of data evidence like software inventories, vulnerability intelligence, license informations, threat modeling, runtime observations or errors, AI specific risk behavior indicators. We take all this as an input. Okay, next, organization policies are applied. Different organization must have a different policies, or they will have similar kind of policies. So this will be input in a system, like an AI system and an agent, AI agent. These policies define acceptable threshold risk. So we will define a risk threshold risk. For example, what can be the threshold risk? Like no release may be expose sensitive information through an untrusted boundaries. That might be one of them. No critical vulnerabilities may remain unresolved without documentation, or no prohibited license may enter the production. So this kind of risk threshold we can put. The framework evaluates against the policies. Decisions may be approved. It might be anything. It might be approved, rejected, mitigate, escalate, or the decisions might be asked for an exception. The audit trail records which evidence contributes to the outcome. So audit becomes very, very easy in this process. This creates consistency across teams, projects, and time. Let's go next. To understand this in more detail, I'll take some example which has happened already in the real world. Like Log4j. Let's take the most popular example, Log4Shell and the Log4j example. When Log4j emerged, organization immediately began searching for effective systems. Many had inventory data, many had vulnerability scans, many generate report. Yet, despite having access to so many informations, organizations still struggle to answer the practical question, which is which system should actually was actually affected, which deployment was exploitable, which system required immediate remediation, which system can wait. Different teams often reacted different conclusions. The challenge wasn't the change was not very visible. The change was decision making. Therefore, everybody panicked, and the organization started, panicking, and they started patching the system everywhere. I think many of them will remember this because this has happened during the December holidays and everybody had to cancel the December holidays. So what I'm trying to make sense is organization need a way to constantly interpret evidences and translate that evidences into action. Make sense? Okay, I have another example if the time permits. Okay, this is very interesting example. It's a car was sold for $1. Have you? I think most of them knows this example. A chatbot sold a car for $1. I won't name the company or anything, but a car dealership deployed an AI sales agent. It was a simple job. The AI agent's job was very simple: answer to the customer question, check vehicle availability, negotiate if required, and help closing the deal faster than human. This was the goal given to the AI agent. On the surface, everything looks secure. The applications passed vulnerability scans, no CVs were detected, security tools report no issue. From the traditional security perspective, the AI bot system, looks safe. What happened one day, one night, a customer started conversation with this AI bot. The question became normally, is the car available? What color? Can you hold it for me for so and so date? Yeah, are you flexible with the pricing? These are all the questions asked by the customer, and AI was answering one by one. And then the question came, are you flexible with the prices? And the AI bot answers yes, because it had that liberty to negotiate. The customer asked another question like, can I get a car for $1? The AI interpreted that as a legitimate, as a negotiation requirement. Based on the internal logic, it checks the log and determines that anything above $10 is technically valid. Without understanding the business intent, the chatbot offered the car for $1. Insane. No vulnerability was exploited. No malware was involved. No SBOM, no VEX, no vulnerability scan could flag this issue. Yet the governance fails occurs. The problem is not software vulnerability. What I'm trying to say is the decision making failed. AI followed the rules. The set of rules was given to them that it has to sell the car before, without any human intervention. It can negotiate, it had access. So that was the problem. Decision making was the problem. So some risks emerge from the system behavior, business context, and how decisions are made. And that's what exactly why organization needs to move beyond visibility and towards decision intelligence. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, Sai, we have another poll question.
Perfect. So let me just launch the last poll,
Thank you.
and it's live. So I see a lot of questions being dropped in the webinar chat. So I would love for you all to drop the same questions in the Q&A section because it would be very much easy for me to use a drop down and then probably ask Devashri the same questions, and she probably will ask or try to answer all these questions if time permits. Probably will just wait for more 30 more seconds. All right, 10 more seconds, guys. We have still 60 to 70 people who are yet to participate on the poll. All right, that's it. I'm going to share the results. So as for Devashri, the answer is A. I think 37% of them have answered. I know it's a geeky answer, but then her expectancy is that yes, the company should be in a position where it should be correlated and queryable to understand where the affected and exposed services should be within a pinpointed hours. I mean, a few hours could be one, a few hours could be five. So I think probably Devashri can answer more on that.
Well, again, depends. Like the first answer is the A1 is the first answer. Like, yes, you should have a correlate and everything should be right now. We should have an answer. If there is an attack, what are the things to be done? The war room, the answer B is somewhere where we say the company is not prepared, or if suddenly happens, this would be a problem. The war room situation we usually avoid, but if it is a totally new attack, I can still understand, but we have to go with the answer A right now.
Got it. Thanks, Devashri. I'm going to stop sharing the poll and then you can continue with the session.
Okay, welcome back. The change from review to enforcement. Okay, how do we enforce this? Historically, governance has relied heavily on human reviews. Till date, we really, when it comes to governance, security, compliance, it's always human is preferred, and I do say the same. We usually do it through commits, approval board emails, email change, manual sign off. The process consume a lot of time and introduce inconsistency. With the introduction or implementation of the unified intelligence layer, shifting governance towards enforcement. So how can we shift that governance to an enforcement? Policies are defined. So we know we will put all the policies in one place. Evidences will be evaluated consistently. Decisions become repeatable, and organization reduce subjectivity while improving accountability. So this will be the result. So we don't have to be checking each and every time. Once you provide every policies, evidences to the system will decide. The mostly important, every decision remains explainable. Automation does not replace governance or human validation. It strengthens the governance. So my philosophy is simple. keep human in the loop, and let AI do the heavy lifting. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, just a minute. I think I stopped sharing. Yeah. This
Yeah,
is
I
the
think
last
you
slide.
clicked the exit instead of moving to the next slide.
Yeah. Just a minute.
No worries.
Okay, governance and audit outcomes. So how this will benefit? The benefit be- uh, is we usually get benefit during the audit outcomes if we implement this framework. Today, organization often demonstrate compliance by producing documents, reports, spreadsheets, approval records, evidences. Auditors, the biggest problem with auditors, they attempt to reconstruct decision making process. So they are busy during the audit process, and because they are trying to reconstruct many documents, check a lot of documentation. Unified intelligence layer will change this approach. Instead of auditing documents, organization can just audit decisions. An auditor can see what evidence is evaluated, because that would be there in the system, which policies were applied. You can check back what outcomes was generated and why that outcome occurred. This dramatically improves transparency and traceability. So the unified intelligence layer is one possible approach to achieve the goal. So that comes to the closing. I hope this presentation was encouraging. Any questions?
So we have a few. So the first
I'll
question,
close with this idea
sure.
that keep humans in the loop, but empower AI to handle the things, and rest will be, it will be always better. Yeah. Yeah. Do we have questions?
Yeah, Devashri, we have a question from Swami Ram. So Swami says, Devashri, does the unifying layer serve also as an auditable or legal evidence as it explains how release decision was taken?
Yes, that's what I said, that unified intelligence layer will be most helpful during the audit seasons, or it will be most helpful for auditors. The reason is the evidences would be recorded in either you create a system, AI system, or you have a background traceability system. So traceability becomes very easy over here. Traceability, explaining things will be very easy, and it will visible. Not even auditors. If tomorrow we have to go back and the developers wants to check after a couple of years, why did we approve it and what was the step, anybody can go into the system, the design system like unified intelligence layer, and get the traceability, why it was there, what policies were implemented, and how that was implemented, and why the decision was made.
Okay, I have another question as well. This is from Resha. Uh, so, are all these inputs for unified layer provided by software service providers on their portals, or they have to be specifically asked for?
It again depends. If for this enforcement you have to ask things like, because if you have particular format that you need the security vulnerability data, you need the open source data, policies, any which ways we will have the policies document in the company. But rest of the documents, like for particular project, if we start a new project, so those evidences only the team can provide, and that needs to be enforced. It should be there, it should be in the CI/CD pipeline, it should be there in the design, it should be there with our unified intelligence layers. So all the documents should be there.
Got it. So we have another question with Sheila Rizvi. So their question is, how effective is NIST AI 100-1?
This effectiveness, I am not very sure about, like how it depends. Again, I've said that each organization, how they are implementing it. that depends on the effectiveness of how do you capture this. We say that we are implementing a certain things, but always, many times it's always on the paper. But are we enforcing it to the team? Is it really effective? I don't have an answer right now for this, actually.
Got it. So Sheza, you can probably Shela, my bad. Shela Rizvi, you can probably contact Devish directly and then probably have a discussion. Maybe later she can provide you a solidified answer, more specifically talking about unified layer. I'll probably move to the next question. This is by Anil. So Anil says, "Hello, Devashri. For achieving the decision making, do you recommend any framework for software supply chain?"
This is the framework I'm proposing, unified intelligence layer. This is the framework I'm proposing where you will have all the evidences, where you have all the policies in place. You have an AI agent which makes the decisions. So it is not the fragmented decisions, like different teams presently if you take a company, you have an auditing team, you have open source team, you have security team, you have PCERT team. There are different teams, and you have the engineering team who actually works for the product or a new release, and you have a release team. So everybody does their work differently. How do you make a decision out of it? And when you review, a security team might say this product you cannot release, but when you go to our engineering team, they say our product is absolutely correct and you there is no bug for it. So it depends how. So this evidence will certainly help. The unified intelligence layers will definitely help, because we are taking all the evidences, we are taking all the documentation, we are taking all the policies from the company and enforcing them and massaging it and making it as a decision, yes, no, either it is yes, no, or you need to block it, or you need to mitigate some of the things, or we say that okay, if you have this kind of problem, but an exception, raising an exception, can solve the problem. So that's why I say that this is unified intelligence layer will be useful.
Next question is, oh, Saif, you probably need to rename your name because your name is Shela Rizvi. So yeah, do look into it. Oh, this is by Okesi. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name. The question goes as is, can internal audit focus on the CIA triangle? By answering the question, did the analysis of the unified intelligence indicate a threat to CIA?
Mm, I need to understand this question. I'm not very sure right now.
So it's a two-part question, Devashri. So their question is, can internal audit focus on the so since we focus on the CIA triangle, I'm trying to assume that by their question, is it going to make a significant impact on the unified intelligence layer when we add the CIA layer also in?
Uh, I'm not very sure, but it should work perfectly fine if we add the CI angle. But we haven't done it. We don't have a proof right now for that. So I won't answer to this right now. Say that yes, it can be done, but I'm not very sure.
Got it. I hope that answers your question. And that's it. We have our question solved. So if we do not have any more questions, I would like to end this session right on time. And then we have a 5-minute break and then come back at 7 p.m. PST to continue with the second session with Kirk. It's going to be a fireside chat. I'm excited. I hope you are too.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sai.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Let's take a
everyone.
five
Thanks for
second
listening.
break.
I'll stop sharing.
Resha Chandak looks like my name is also displayed rather than I have looked into it, but considered issuance, but not. Can you drop a message earlier to in the chat? You should find the email, or you can also email to the board regarding this. I think they'll probably rectify it during the CPE session. Comms check. Can you hear me, Kurt?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Perfect.
Ashish, now in terms of display name, I have it resolved. What is the email ID where I drop a note? Or you could email the board. I can probably type it for you. Ashish, if you're still with us, I just sent you a text. All right, let me just stop sharing the screen. All right, with that being said, I hope everyone's back. Right on 7. Perfect. I probably wait another more minute just so that everyone's back. I don't see any messages. Okay, I hear a lot of text messages. I'm back. So let me get started. Uh, uh, Thanks, Devashri, for the earlier session. But second session, we are continuing the fireside chat from the last session. So I have someone who is working. So full disclosure, me and Kirk work at the same company, and I try to bug him every day. So I'm bugging him in the evening as well. Uh, and then there may be processes or tools that we may discuss over the call, which, full disclaimer, you have to do your risk assessment, a due diligence to see if it actually works for you or not. But we'll try to avoid any tools, processes, as such, just this, fireside chat is more specifically about the psychology and politics and that's the reason I wanted to bring in Kirk. So with that being said, our guest tonight has built a massive experience in security and is someone he's seen different worlds. The reason why is he's worked in healthcare. In healthcare. He's worked at Kaiser Permanente. At HPE, worked with consumer gaming, and at entertainment, he's worked with Sony. He's completed everything. And at security vendor side as well, he's worked with at Micro Focus. And now at FinTech, he's covering, Lending Club and now soon becoming Happen Bank. So Kirk, now you're a senior director at security engineering with Lending Club. You've completed with data encryption. You're completing with vulnerability management. You're holding three functional units at the bank. And most importantly, here's a caveat about Kirk. He studied psychology alongside with management information systems, which turns out to be very much relevant to our session today. And not just technology. And that is where I want, this session to be more interesting. So please welcome Kirk Anderson, everyone. And I'll probably give you a minute to introduce yourself as well, Kirk.
Sure, great. Thanks, Siren. I appreciate it. That's an excellent introduction, and thanks, Devashri, for the first session. That was great. So yeah, I think Siren covered a lot of my background, but just to delve into it a little bit, I started life a long time ago. I don't like to even say how many years ago now, but as a Java developer. So that was kind of my intro into career after an education in psychology, as you mentioned. Um, and I quickly transitioned into security after a security incident at Kaiser. And this was back in the day when there really wasn't security teams for the most part at companies. And so I was part of the kind of founding security team at Kaiser Permanente. And I worked there for a number of years. um, from Kaiser, I went to Sony. It was a very different experience, a lot smaller, and I can delve into any of this. And then at Hewlett Packard, I specialized mostly in pen testing for a long time, and then ran the SOC for a short while. Um, and then on to Lending Club, where I've been for like 8 or 9 years now. I can't exactly remember, but it's been quite a while ride there as well, from kind of a more startup-y feel fintech to now a heavily regulated bank. So a lot of learning along the way, and I think just interesting things that I'm happy to share with all of you.
Perfect. That was a great introduction, Kirk. Uh, and quick intro as well. I know a lot of people are asking questions. So here's how we're going to divide. So I'm going to have the first 30 minutes ask Kirk a lot of questions, bug him up, and the next 30 minutes back to you guys so that you can learn those more insights from a senior director as to how, he organizes stuff and then make sure that every drill is perspective because you cannot find a lot of people at that level because there's not many banks as well because that is more important, right? You want to understand how things are set up in a bank and how you have to be ready for everything because there's extraterritorial people trying to attack the bank, stateside, international hackers all in as well. So get all your questions in and we'll try to answer as much as we can. And now with that being said, Kurt, now my first question would be, as you said, you've done healthcare, you said consumer gaming, you said vendor side building security tooling, and now in the bank. So what pulled into security engineering? Can you just give us a throw line as to what, no matter what in the industry, this pulled you back in? Like security engineering was the cold fulcrum.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think my experience in security is very different based on the company that I've worked at. So, one thing, for example, at Sony, I think is the best uh, representative of this is like everything there was very date driven. It's a consumer products company, and so the dates are published in advance for product releases, and you have to stick to those no matter what. So the ability to insert security into project timelines was what it was, right? The product was going to ship on that date. Whereas HP was kind of the opposite. Most of the projects there started 2 years ahead of time, and they changed dates often, and so you had a lot of time to really, and their risk profile or appetite rather was really low, meaning that we had months, honestly, to engage with teams from a security perspective. So what I will say, I think the common thread is really just trying to align with the business that you're in, right? And making sure that you're supporting their risk threshold and approaching your security review appropriately, right?
Yep. No, I completely agree on that. A lot of things will change because your mindset is really important. More specifically, I think at the end of the day, the threat's going to be the same, but it's more about, are they going to up? Are they going to go down as well? With that being said, I'll probably ask you a small follow-up. What would you say that the mindset changed in terms of a mindset movement, right? Because you were a security vendor and now being a customer as well. What would you think from a risk profile? Like, what would you change in terms of understanding? Oh, I need to improve this or I need to improve that.
You mean what would I improve at Lending Club based on my experience at other places? Or I'm not sure if I understand the question.
So here's our put. The risk would only amplify with your profiles being increased, right? You started out with, and then now you're a senior director as well. And
Yeah.
in few areas you've been a vendor, in few areas now being a customer as well, because we are serving a lot of customers. I would probably put this way is, how would you amplify your risk in terms of understanding, oh, as a customer, I need to probably look a lot more in terms of seeing how I need to address risk. Or because if it's a vendor, you probably are selling a standard stock of software, it's going to be the same for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think really it's about just determining your risk. Like we depending on the industry, and you can look at what's the impact of an event occurring and how can you tolerate that, right? That goes into brand reputation, financials of the company, quite honestly. And what we found is it's just important to have a conversation, leave it even up to the board level, that is making sure that your program aligns to the business drivers. And so everything you do from our risk assessment supports the business goals properly. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but like I think that that's really what we did at Lending Club was when I got there, we had a lot of programs that were based on technology capability, right? We want to improve encryption, or we want to make this process more flexible, deploy things quickly. But all of that left us with, I think, some gaps in our security program. And so what it took was going back to like, what are the overall goals of the company and how does security align to that? And then making sure that every decision you make in security supports that, or at least categorizes the risk to support that.
Oh, that's perfect. I completely agree on that. But I think my next question will probably be a little bit more amplified on that. I know you did say that you want to set out, you've joined Learning Club. You want to set out this security engineering function as well. So what did good look like versus what it looks like now?
Yeah, and I think I started into that a little bit actually. That's a good question. So things have changed a lot over the time that I've been at Lending Club, and to kind of pick up where I was talking about earlier, we had a lot of really technically interesting solutions. Um, there was a lot of basic tooling in place, a lot of really good work being done in terms of our big data platform. Um, we had a lot of integration with our engineering teams. So uh, we had meetings even when I started, right? Like there was monthly meetings with all of the engineering leads where they would, on their lunch hour by choice, come and interface with information security and talk about vulnerabilities and what's going on in the security space and how to fix issues that they're seeing. So there was a lot of good things, but what was missing, I think, was a lot of the really core and foundational um, infrastructure that's needed and like comprehensive implementation of it. So about 5 years ago, I think we set out a program to look at, and we just used NIST and CIS frameworks and said, like, what are the key controls that you need to have in place? Do we have a complete and accurate software inventory? Do we know what all the hardware assets in our environment are? Do we track and approve all of the operating systems in productive use in our systems? And we found that the answer to all those, like comprehensively, was no. So let's start there, and that I think really, it was a painful transition to kind of go back to the basics, but it really did set the groundwork for, I think, building a stronger program over the past several years.
Oh, that's a perfect answer. I think it shapes a lot when you want to pretty much uh, focus and know what you want to do, rather you want a structured approach as well. So I completely agree on that. So my next question was be a follow-up on the same question as well. Probably like Flex, you might probably be like understanding, you did psychology first rather than being security engineering first, but did it actually help? Because my kind of question now would be, how did that background like set up everything for you, like the way you wanted to build things, right? Because yeah, we did talk about Learning Club being a startup, like growing things in mind as well. But how do you think that was actually a primary focus for you in terms of building things and moving to the rest of business, like being an RTB as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting story. I mean, I love psychology as an academic pursuit, and just to be honest, like I came out of school around 2000 and moved to the Bay Area from Washington, where I grew up, and it was just people were getting pulled into the industry very quickly back then, and so that included myself. Wasn't really an intentional transition. With that said, I've never regretted having a background in psychology, and approaching like the people aspect, I think is super important, right? I mean, especially when I was in pen testing and an individual contributor in that area. I mean, it's a highly technical field, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of human elements in security, right? The ability to communicate and help people understand like the actual risk and business trade-offs, even just to making sure that people you're working with are working on things that motivate them and keep them engaged, right? I mean, some people want to interact with others, especially I've seen on my team. Some people love to have a lot of interaction with others, sitting in meetings and talking to people and collaborating. And some people really enjoy just heads down research. And I find personally that, keeping people aligned with what they want to be doing is important. So all of those human elements are, I think, critical to managing security.
I completely agree. Structuring something right from start and then doing your planning for the next year or two, making sure that everything's right on track, and then anything falls aside, it falls down like pack of cards. Everything's down, and then you feel like you're drowning at the end of the day, and everything gets separated, and you feel like, oh no, you've deliberately, punctured the balloon is what you currently feel, because it feels like, right, it hits you in the stomach, right? So I completely agree on that. So I'm going to move to the next section, the most important section I completely love, and I want to get these answers out of you. Like people, right? I mean, psychology comes in. You've joined Lending Club. You wanted to build this team right from the start as well. So my question to you would be, walk us through how you wanted to structure the team. Now you have application. I know for a fact that what functionalities are within you, but this is a broader question for everyone. Now you've got application security. you've got pen test, you've got data encryption, all under one roof, right? So what made you arrive under this functional unit, and how do you think these functional units thrive under you, knowing for a fact that you got to manage a lot of people with different mindsets?
Yeah, it's a good, I mean, so I think a lot of it is just based on the size of our organization. So, I mean, aside from Lending Club, right? I mean, I previously was at Hewlett Packard, and information security there at the time was like 350 to 400 people. So you had really large organization. Vuln management team might be 20 people in and of itself, right? At Lending Club, uh, things are just a lot smaller. So um, our information security team has, ranged in size between 20 to 30 people in the time that I've been there. And so um, from a high level management or layout, we have it structured pretty simply, right? We have operations and incident response, and then I'm security engineering, so it's the kind of everything else, right? Architecture, role management. um, so I wouldn't say, I mean, I feel like it was a very practical implementation to how we have structured the team, but we did think very carefully about, you know, I think what we've spent a lot more time on, honestly, is in our transition to what we call first and second and third lines of defense, and exactly how we integrate with information security, as internal audit and the third line, and then most importantly, what we call our first line of defense, which is the actual technology teams implementing things, and how we have those handoffs. So that's been actually, I think, the more interesting organizational challenge.
I completely understand. I mean, it would be a complete drop off as well. But there's one thing that I probably want to stress more in terms of understanding and identifying people, Kirk, is now you've come down, your last show was with Kaiser Permanente. You probably must have had a lot of people under you, and we being very, very lean, we pretty much have like everyone who's working for us as a subject matter expert, is what I completely believe. So how would you define having, as a senior director, having, oh, I want a generalist rather than a specialist as well? How do you make those trade-offs in terms of identifying people when you want to hire them? Because that arrives the team dynamics, right? That changes everything.
Yeah, I mean, I will say my approach in general to hiring people in security is I really focus on people with a passion to learn, right? Like, I try to avoid looking for specific skills, right? And I like sometimes you can't avoid it, but um, I would rather hire somebody who just is interested in technology as a whole, has a passion to learn, and loves to like conquer problems and challenges. Because then that's somebody who can change roles and like develop new skills, right? So I think what I'm kind of describing is my team now is, even though they may have certain areas of expertise or things that they work on, for the most part, are just generalists that I can move, from one function to another, or at a minimum, they can back each other up. But yeah, so I definitely look for people that have a wide range of skill sets and just a general kind of passion for security and learning.
No, I agree. I mean, if you're lean, you can be mean as well. So my next question would probably be gonna change. So do you, I mean, a lot of people right now in the market, you talk to any person who's leading a security organization or pretty much any organization would talk about the cultural changes, right? A lot of dynamics come in because a lot of perspectives change. People see different things through geographical areas as well. So do you believe that cultural change is one of the hardest parts of your job? Because knowing for a fact that we are a bank, we have people coming from different cultures as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's been that much of a challenge for us. I think right now for me, just my biggest challenge is honestly running with a lean team. I think a lot of people are obviously focusing on solving problems with AI, which I think it will improve things quite a bit. Um, But at the end of the day, there's still kind of is a need, I think, for a certain amount of resources. And so that for us has been, we've been we've done a good job over the years, I think, of attracting talent, and um, I've focused a lot on building a good cohesive team, and thankfully we've had very low turnover. So that hasn't been a challenge. I think for me, the bigger challenge is just um, trying to cover everything and making sure that we're doing the most important work with the limited resources that we have.
No, I agree. I mean, security as in such, like you name it, privacy, security, governance, risks, and compliance is always been very brutal in the market, either for both ends of the party, people who want to hire or people who want to join in as well. So I completely agree. It's brutally competitive as well. So one other thing I want to like really, really focus on is for the fact that it's a constant struggle for people to decide, do I want, you know, a new person to be pushed through in? That is meaning that you do you want people to grow internally, or do you feel like, let me change the team dynamic. I want to find a leader from outside and bring him to the team. When you put these options in to weigh uh, the team dynamics, which one would you prefer, and do you have an option?
That's a really good question. And I think honestly, it's one of those things that might honestly change kind of over time. I mean, I think it's easy to maybe have the mindset that like I would just want to hire a team of rock stars, that have 20 years of experience in whatever thing I'm trying to do. Um, but that's rarely the case, right? That you can build a team like that. And I will say, in my experience, some of the best people on the team now are people that we brought in with 1 year of experience or less, and have grown in their roles over time. So um, again, I think not to kind of like be repetitive, but the important thing is having the right mindset and having the right kind of core type of person that really wants to continue growing. And then in that perspective, like junior folks can be amazing contributors and really develop in their roles, and basically you wouldn't rely as much on needing senior folks. Um, yeah.
No, I agree on that. Yeah, I think when you want the team to grow internally, I feel like you're giving them a lot of things back. And I feel you probably be also be appreciated where they put in extra efforts to actually solve the problem, not as one, but two hands together. I completely agree on that. But I think I love for the fact that you've explained how you perceive people and then how the team dynamic structure at Lending Club as well. So thanks for that. I'll probably move to the next section more specifically in terms of process and how you're actually defining it. So everyone's moving shift left, right, correct. No, there's gone are those days where we have a developer, we have a QA, we have regression testing done, we have security, and then that's when our times come in. But now pretty much everything's shifting left, everything's falling on security. There's always one team to blame, and that's security team to come in as well. So how does security engineering has changed over the time a lot. So when we plug in security engineering, what do you mean here, and how the software sector development life cycle has changed right from design to deployment, and how you perceive at Lending Club without it being a bottleneck?
Yeah, there's a lot there. I think two things I'll probably start to touch on is one, and I think it's a fairly common thing that one of the worst things you can do in security, I think, is have a ton of findings and then just like toss them over the fence to the engineering team, right? So here's your CSV file of 30,000 items,
Yep.
and have a nice day. So that really breaks the system and is not good for anybody involved. And I feel like that's been one thing that we've focused on, is how can we actually communicate things that are actionable and really necessary, right? So we've actually spent, and the answer to that is not easy, which is why people do those CSV files in the first place. but through a combination, I think, of tooling and process and just good discipline, right, you can improve that substantially. And that was something that I think even just up to recently, we made a lot of headway in that space. And then, as you mentioned, yeah, shifting left is huge. And again, just to be kind of transparent, we at Lending Club had a process up until quite recently where we were really shifted pretty right. With our like static analysis process happened late in the development cycle, and that was an area of frustration for me where I didn't like people getting becoming aware of issues that could block a build right before it goes to production, for example. So we've since remediated that. Now we have the capability to, give people visibility at check-in time and or access to a lot more modern tooling where we get much better information. So it's kind of a new transition to us, honestly, and I think a lot of people have probably done it sooner. It was just a challenge for us organizationally to implement, that change. But we've seen a very positive reaction. I mean, for our vuln management tool, I know that we've seen just exponential explosion in terms of engineers asking to interact with it, and so I see that data, and it's, I think, letting me know that we're finally moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree on that. Knowing for a fact that you want to shift left because teams would completely want to get that automation, right? Because you find it the team's very lean. You would not want the team to actually go in and do the things a lot, right? Because we have enough tools right now that are gonna ship and do your work, because the amount of people that come in and the amount of skilling that we currently have and the amount of people that are in, I think it's going to be straightforward as well. Do you want guardrails, or do you want to put in paved roads where everything is streamlined? So completely, accept on that. So I'll move a little bit part on politics because process is pretty much streamlined and same for every other organization. So I want to see, looking at politics angle, like how would you probably answer this? So security engineering, right? Compliance, we come in to bother you. Internal audit, we come to bother you. And regulators as well, most number of people do not speak the same language, right? Because you go through PCI DSS, SOC 1, SOC 2, multiple number of people, multiple number of auditors come in, not the same people. It should be frustrated for you. So how would you gain trust with these people to understand and speak the same language while also maintaining that you want to shift left, have a shift left mindset as well?
Excellent question. So I think going back to what I talked about earlier, when we kind of rebooted our security program, we took on the mindset really of auditors, right? It's the question that people ask all the time. How do you structure your program? How do you ensure you're working on the biggest risks? And really, what it is a lot of initial effort to do stuff that I think a lot of people miss, which is align your program with business goals and then do a complete risk assessment and an accurate, kind of capability maturity assessment to give yourself an accurate accounting of like what your program strengths and weaknesses are. And I think when we did that, and we could show our work from, here's how we came up with all of our areas of maturity and how we ranked our and the third party assessments that support our view of this maturity and our roadmap to improve upon that. We could show kind of all that logic. They really then had a lot of comfort, right? Because they understood that we actually were following a methodical process, covering our bases, and doing the right work rather than just us. Because I think, and maybe what I'm glossing over is what I saw a lot of people doing for years before that was trying to show only what you did that was positive, meaning like I detected 20,000 CVEs in Q3, or I blocked 15,000 emails, right? And so these are all metrics that you can pull from your tooling and they sound great and they show volume or perceived coverage. but they aren't necessarily telling the whole story or showing where the gaps might live. So when you start from the whole risk assessment that's complete and it shows areas of, you know, maturity, but then also some areas to grow in. I think that's what people want to see, and that's what helps the board and auditors all understand like you're doing the right due diligence.
I'll follow up on the same question then. How would you communicate? I mean, we want to get that information of how you communicate to the senior leadership, to the board, and what they would like to see in that report, because you go through a lot of assessments, right? uh, SOC 2, a lot of assessment that the bank goes through. I do not want to name all the assessments that we go through just for compliance perspective, but a lot of them as well. So what happens behind those doors? And can you just point out 2 or 3 points that can help everyone out here? Like, what is your learning, and then what lands in that room? What do the board and the senior leadership look for?
Yeah, I think I we'd have an offsite session for going through all this in detail. But I think the short answer is we spend a lot of effort, honestly. So we report to our board annually, and we spend a couple of months preparing for our board report. It's extremely important, and I think so. One primary rating we have like a quality of risk management score that gets communicated to our board. So it's one simple metric that says, or rating rather, that says how effective is the bank at dealing with risk in cybersecurity. And at one point, we actually had to adjust that from a rating that the board liked to a rating that the board didn't like. And, there's a lot that goes into that, but because of the detail in the report, how much effort we put into compiling, what we were giving them and how we built our program, how we arrived at that conclusion, it resulted in very significant change to the bank. So I think, what I'm saying is what you communicate to your board is extremely important. It has to be distilled down to, remove overly technical, I think, information for sure, right? You want to focus on key risks, obviously what you're doing really well, but then being very upfront with where you need either additional investment or where you may not be aligning your risk appetite. And so when I talk about that, it's like some companies may be okay with having larger risk items out there. As a bank, we have a very low appetite for that risk. So really just letting them know, hey, if you want to do this, proposed business, project, uh, it's going to push our risk way beyond appetite. So we need to either, mitigate all this risk somehow with additional resources or whatever. And so just communicating that really clearly is super important.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I love the fact that you used the word or disagree right now. That was my next question. That every security leader, everyone wants to keep everything secure, right, Kurt? But that cannot be the possibilities where that's the reason, one of the reasons where, prioritization is important at every organization, and then business comes first. I think that is in everyone's word. Business always comes in first. Do you want to compromise security so much that the business thrives? Probably no. But there has to be an agree to disagree section where you pretty much have to understand, all right, I'm going to give you a +3, but I'm going to take one back. But how would you decide that, Kirk? I mean, every security leader eventually, has that disagree moment, and they push back on a lot, saying that, okay, I'm going to give you 2 points. I'm going to give you to do this, but I want you to do this as well. How are you going to massage that language and making sure that, yes, the business is thriving, but on the other side as well, I want to make sure that the process still stays intact and my processes stays intact as
Yeah, that is not easy. That's a very complicated, and that's I think where the difficulty comes in correctly managing information security, honestly. So I think what I try to do is be as reasonable as I can be, without something that's going to make me really lose sleep over at night, right? So As a security practitioner, in my personal experience, I feel like we tend to be very risk averse. Or we might say, like when you look at CVEs, like, oh, this, it's a score of 8 and it's potentially exploitable. Like in the real world, I feel like you kind of have to tamper that down a little bit, right? Based on um, you know, more information. For example, you can add compensating controls or do things to bring down the risk. And so when I approach like what is something I can live with and what is something I can not live with, um, I try to look at all those angles. Like, is this really exploitable? Can we bring down the risk some other way? Um, what at the end of the day is the true risk to the business? And then, ultimately, I think if I've done all that and had those conversations, when I finally do say, this is something that I can't support. And I will say at Lending Club, like ultimately, security not supporting something, I've never once been overridden. Um, but we really reserve our put our foot down moments, for when they're absolutely needed.
No, that's a great point. I mean, the next question was about to come on more specifically risk, where, since we're a bank, right? Not many of them are a bank. You wish probably you would want a lot of less regulations on you, but unfortunately, it's the stream that we currently are. We got to serve our customers. Every dollar that's in needs to be secure, and being in security and think that's the most important thing for us. Being a fintech is we're not a traditional bank, we are a fintech. So primarily we should be tech savvy, and I think security should keep you open up at night by night as well. So I completely agree on. But there's one thing that I would probably want you to answer is how much do you think? I know you've let me know that you're okay with not sleeping over the night, wherein a lot of things in terms of security is okay for you. But how would you define that risk landscape? What is okay for you when you're sleeping okay at night?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I'm not sure. I think at the end of the day, what you don't want is a reportable event, right? Or system unavailability, right? Like that's what's going to get the security team replaced, and the business, would suffer, right? So that's ultimately what we want to prevent. And so you're constantly doing that assessment of how likely is that if I do or don't do what I'm proposing in this scenario, right? So
Right.
it's all about trade-offs and trying to understand. But again, like I said, um, if you have layered controls and multiple levels of defense, and I mean, obviously anything like externally accessible and exploitable, like it's just kind of a no-brainer. You've got to fix those things. And then there's some really important behaviors that we're focusing on, like just comprehensive patching and keeping things up to date. Like if you can nail those things and respond quickly, then you almost have like some ability to trust that other controls will step in if something goes awry. But if you have slow response SLAs and systems that are resistant to patching, like, these old systems that like, hey, every time we try to deploy a patch, it breaks. And then we have, those are these things that haven't been updated in 600 days or something like that. Then you want to treat that a little differently, right? Maybe be a little more risk averse because they're just more fragile.
Do you think, because we as Lending Club, we were a peer-to-peer lender, right? And now we are a full service bank. Do you think a security landscape on this would change on the bucket? We just spoke probably like a couple of minutes, or do you think, oh, peer-to-peer lending has one set of regulations, and then a bank is an altogether because a new identity, new set of regulations. Do you think you would approach that from a different perspective, or do you think everything pretty much still the same because a security threat is a threat and nothing much changes for me?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way we structure our security program and my perceived importance of security hasn't changed from being just a basic peer-to-peer, borrowing and investing kind of company, um, to now a larger bank. I think we've certainly seen our attack surface grow. and some of that may be related to just like AI and stuff like that, right? Over time, so attack complexity is changing, and definitely the number and nature of attacks is constant for us as a financial institution. But I think we've always kind of approached it with security is the most important thing, right? And just knowing, like, when you sit and I talk all the time to our incident response team and get updates from them about what we're seeing. And so um that really informs the need for this, right? Because any time if an application gets deployed, it's misconfigured, doesn't have MFA, I mean, that's going to be a big problem. So anyway, just having, from a security engineering perspective, I think it's important to be up to date on like what you're seeing from your incident response side and the actual attacks and logs and things like that for informing like what you need to focus on in your
Yeah,
SDLC.
completely agree on that, Kirk. I mean, from the outside perspective, I know we spoke about, identifying that, applications not being on MFA, having that second layer of defense or third layer of defenses, or your network defenses being on space as well. So you can't govern if you can't see them, right? We have right now many number of companies have treated it's just like plug and play, right? You get this vendor, you get them in, you get another vendor, and then you fix it. You say, oh, I have a tool for SEA, I have a tool for SAST, I have a tool for DAST, I have tools pretty much for everything as well. At one point, do we actually feel, oh no, we it's a risk as well, because I can't govern these many tools, I can't build a visibility, and I can't see in those risks because you're pretty much dependent on the tools as well, right? It's a tools creep. The telemetry in one tool might show you one thing, the other one might show you another thing as well. So reporting as such is also important for us to define, all right, which data is important for me, because in terms of your SDLC, you want to go for your SEA and then your SAST and then your DAST, and then eventually you would probably, if the company is big enough, they probably have a security team in their posture as well. So how would you define that we are not over reliant on the tools, but also have human in the loop as well?
That's a great question also. I would say for me, I like to make sure, for one thing, I like to assess the tools that we're using over time, right? So we have QBRs and check-ins with our vendors to make sure we're maximizing. But in my opinion, a lot of people deploy tools, like you mentioned, over reliance on tools, and maybe a little bit of that is like, just because you have, let's say, a vuln management tool or some, whatever security tool it is that you've deployed, that doesn't necessarily mean that you've deployed it properly, configured it fully, or using it to its fullest extent. And I've definitely seen that over the years, right? Like we have several tools that I think were deployed to, for whatever reason, meet a deadline, or maybe even just like group reporting relationships changed. But we're leaving a lot on the table in terms of what capability could be done with that tool. So that's one thing I would say is make sure you're using your tools that you have to the best of your ability, right? That's huge in terms of um, getting effectiveness out of the money you've already spent, but then also ensuring that you're having the best security posture you can. And in terms of over reliance on tools, I think it comes down to, you can change them out from time to time, or make changes to your tooling stack to make sure that you're not just fully dependent. And then also, like I said, just make sure that somebody is owning that tool and understanding its output, and not just taking it blindly. Like, so assess, or in our case, like with container scanning or whatever, we've got multiple scanners that we use in conjunction, and then we take a look at the output differences between them to try and give us an understanding of like, why is one saying this one thing and another behaving a little differently? Which one do we want to listen to? Kind of, what we were hearing about earlier,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's important to look at the differences between sources of information, and then use that as something to like research and figure out what should I do here? Who do I listen to?
Makes sense. Now, I love for the fact that when you say you see the risk, right? mean, you pretty much don't have an option to actually think and then work on it. It's just to work on it, right? So what would be your SOS? How would you define the SOS practice that I need to get this risk to an acceptable level? And then once you do get it, how would you define acceptable in a normal business? Because yeah, it might be different for other, sectors, but since we are in a bank, we do not have a room as well, because we, at the end of the day, if it's serious, we got to explain it to other cert authorities, regular OCC, FCC, you name it, we have to name it to the regulators as well. So how would you make sure that, it's always on the acceptable level?
And I think historically, the easy way to look at risk is like when you have tools that report some level of perceived criticality, right? Things are critical, high, medium, low, and you can either accept that or adjust it with some rubric, right? Based on, is this externally facing or internal? Does this have sensitive data on it or not? Um, and those are things that we've used, but beyond that, right, like I think what we're trying to look at more now too is like cumulative risk. So like if you have a series of low or medium issues but strung together, they can actually lead to some level of unacceptable risk. And so I think that what I'm explaining is I think what we've traditionally done, honestly, is a lot of the former, where you have tools that report things and we might adjust them with a simple rubric that says, um, our tool reported this as high, but it's internal only and it has these other compensating controls. We're going to address that to a medium and have some SLA associated with a medium. And that's a simplistic way to go. And then now I think what we're really trying to move a lot more towards is a deeper understanding of exactly what vulns are present and then like across the network, throughout the stack, and how might they be leveraged in conjunction to actually execute an attack. And with that, we're finding AI to be very helpful in trying to make those ascertain those situations.
Now I agree. I mean, making sure that you're abreast to new, I mean, technology is one thing. Security threats with the new technology is another thing as well. You never know what's going to hit you. So I completely agree with your answer. So I have one final question before I head out to the Q&A section. My last question would be not necessary. It's a question. So if there's a security, person, there could be seniors, leads, managers who want to be moving the upper in the ladder as well, like being directors and the upper band as well. So if there's a person in this room and they want to build a function right now, and assuming that it's a heavy regulated section as well, where they're defining it for a bank and it's a fast growing company like us, what would you define that it's important for them to build around, like people, process, and what politics they might face at any organization for them to grow, and then what insights they have to learn from this session?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, my answer, and I don't think there's a one right answer to this, honestly, because obviously technical knowledge is very important, especially in the security industry. What I feel is very helpful when trying to transition from maybe like an individual contributor and into management is um, really just talking a lot to other people, right? And putting yourself outside of whatever space you're in and thinking more about the broader um, aspects of security and applying security at a business. So talk to the people like in finance and marketing and how they view security and understand what their challenges are. Talk to a lot of other leaders in the security space at other companies and other industries. Try to understand, the general just GRC and risk management and like effective ways to communicate metrics. And for me, that was, just how to visually present data that communicates things better to people. Right. So a lot of non-security knowledge, I think, will go a long way into being a better security practitioner.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect closure for what someone has done. Someone probably must have taken notes right now in terms of how they want to scale up in their life as well. So with that being said, I'll open up the Q&A section, and I already see questions being popped up. The first one being CPs. Oh, CPs would be managed directly. So if you've stayed more than 50 minutes in this session, you probably would be getting CPs. And if you've answered the polls before, I think you should get the CPs as well. I have a question for you, Kirk. How do you compare, I mean, with your best of knowledge, how do you compare handling security operations from non-banking to banking environment? Is the tightening banking infrastructure easier or non-banking infrastructure easier for you from your experience?
Hmm. So, I mean, I would say that a lot of difficulty around running operations is in your threat actors and how what incentive there is for them. So, for example, at Kaiser, it was I there's a lot of nuance to this, but I would say it's on the easier side because at the time, and there's not a lot of financial incentive in stealing somebody's medical record, right? Like you can say you did, and that's cool, or get sensitive data, right? But you can't. That there was less of an attack surface at Kaiser than than there was at Hewlett Packard, for example, and at Lending Club. I will say at HP there was a heavy attack traffic and like huge problems with nation state attackers and persistent threat actors. So that was a very challenging SOC environment. And then, quite honestly, I would put my experience at Lending Club like somewhere in the middle.
Perfect. So, so do you believe I would probably add something to that question as well. So do you believe at one point there's too many, I mean, at one point we actually feel that, even though you add more frameworks as well, the controls at some point would probably overlap, right? At the end of the day, you have your second layer defense. It's going to be the same. It's like potato, potato. You probably add, in one way, it's going to be a common compliance, you could say, because in one way, they're going to ask you, do you have, MFA added in? One certification probably ask you, is it going to be 8 character or is it going to be 16 character? It's only going to be how much we probably add in those security flavors as well, and then how much do we compromise as well. So I think considering that, I think I'll probably agree with you as well, saying that it be probably a balance of having those two things, saying that do I want to focus more on security, but rather do I want to be in a position where I give the engineering team a little bit of flexibility to thrive in getting the business as well. So I agree on that. But coming back as well, I think governance and frameworks, pretty much adding a lot of them as well, probably change a lot. I think I strongly agree on that. So I think everyone's probably writing on the chat. So I think you can use the Q&A section to type in these questions. It's really hard for me to get Kirk, guys. So you have an golden opportunity to ask him questions before we end this session for today.
You had to beat me at arm wrestling.
I do. All right. This was answered live. Oh, this one's more about PPT. Oh, you're gonna get the PPT in the portal. So if you're a ISAC Silicon Valley member, you're gonna get the PPT. You can check in the resources section. You should find them available. I'm gonna wait 1 more minute, guys. If I don't have any questions, I think Kirk, your session was splendid. I guess I think pretty much no one's answering, or either they don't want to ask a director.
It's all good. People can reach out to me separately too if anybody has any questions for me.
Okay, I have a couple of questions that came in. So this was one thing I think probably an extension of what I asked before. How do you keep calm in the midst of a crisis?
Oh, years of experience. Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that. Like, there's always some amount of crisis, and uh, in my experience, I think really knowing when is actually something truly worth reacting to. So if you structure your program right, you have the proper controls in place, and kind of understand the true impact of a scenario, you know when to really pull the fire alarm or not, and that um, can sometimes be difficult. But I will say, that really is the key, is being able to quickly decide whether something is really in need of, like, do I work the weekend, and do people stay here tonight to
Yep.
fix this, or can this be managed with a longer term plan of remediation over coming weeks or something like that, right? So that's the challenge, is just in taking the chance to correctly analyze that and determine the proper way. But then, yeah, at the end of the day, if there's a crisis, there's a crisis, and that's part of security. And I think um, that's going to become much, much more important for everybody going forward, is how do we react quicker. Um, so I think that's especially an area where we're really putting a lot of effort now in not using the same uh, SLAs or expectations around SLAs, and like, how can we fix things in hours rather than weeks, to be honest, because I think that's where things are going.
Yeah, that's true. I hope that answers your question, Anil. This is interesting. This question was not even covered by me. Have you ever worked with remote partners throughout your experiences? How was your experience in working with them?
Like service providers.
Pretty much. I guess in terms of remote partners, I think what they mean here is this was an on. So I think what they mean is probably remote workers, contractors, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I've had, we've used contracting staff at several companies. Lending Club tends to be mostly employees, except for anyway, there's some engineering components, I think. But in security, our staff is all full time, and
Yep.
but we do have certain functions that we outsource, and I would just say the honest truth is it depends on the vendor, right? I don't think it's like outsourcing is good or bad necessarily, or some SaaS providers are great, some services providers are great, and some are not. So I think for me, the key is in just like choosing really the right ones.
That's true. I hope that answers the question. I don't know who you are, so it's coming from an anonymous person. So I hope that answers your question. I have one last before I close the session. Do you report to IT CIO or to risk CRO? What's the reason for your reporting to CIO or CRO?
Yeah, that's a good question, because actually, uh, if you would have asked me when I joined Lending Club, it was the CIO. Now it's the CRO, and that was actually done to satisfy a regulator's request for separation of duties. So Lending Club has changed its structure over the years to kind of accurately represent what's required at a bank versus what's typically found at like tech companies.
I hope that answers your question, Ajay. Uh, so I have a person called Saif. He has a two-part question. When you have tremendous pressure towards AI and some solutions may not make sense, how do you handle the pressure?
Uh, so I'm not sure if I understand exactly. Like, I'm assuming it's, you know, the pressure of reacting to AI attacks, maybe, and threats.
Probably, I guess so, because even I'm trying to think probably when they say it's solutions, because it's talking about security engineering, right? So I'm assuming probably from the solution point, maybe it's to defend, maybe. That's what I'm assuming. So yeah, that's true. So he wants the solution of how we implement solutions when we have tremendous pressure through AI as well. Probably one such thing could be like, you could probably bulk up, say that, we have Mythos coming up, right? How is the bank, ready for that?
Yeah. So so we're putting a lot of time and thought into that, obviously, like I think most people are. And I think my answer is we're obviously using AI every day to assess everything we can. So that's static analysis, that's dynamic analysis, figuring out how it works as a technology, right? Because it's the same tools that attackers have access to. But the reality of using it is different than people think, right? Like you have to dig a lot deeper than just like, point Claude at lendingclub.com and ask it to
Yeah.
find bones is overly simplistic. And so how you structure it, understanding the context window, understanding that having agents kind of in a adversarial relationship with one another, where one process is finding issues, another is deduping them, another is validating them and correctly assessing the risk. It tends to find things and then also weed out the noise, because we're definitely finding AI, like other tools, is very, very noisy, and it will do a great job of finding things and patting itself on the back. But then you can have another agent go through and tell it, hey, basically call BS on all these findings, or make sure they're accurately rated and exploitable, and then it will do that. And so we're doing all of these things right now, and then kind of like what I mentioned earlier, in general, we're just thinking, hey, the world is changing. So Mythos might come out. It's going to find things really quickly. What do we need to do as a core skill right now is just get good at responding. So nothing's really changed. I mean, like, I've been in pen testing for a long time. And at the end of the day, you're using the same tools and techniques that attackers use. That just now includes AI. So we're doing that and really trying to focus on coverage, understanding the techniques, using them to the best of our ability, and then responding as quickly as possible.
Well, that's a great insight, Kirk. I think that's it for the questions. So with that being said, so this could be our second session rounding straight for a fireside chat. I would love for everyone to thank Kirk for his time. It was really hard for me to get Kirk in, and then finally I landed in. I hope he probably delivered an insight as to how he runs in a bank and how hard it is to actually run. And trust me, guys, when I say this is not with an explanation. I know for a fact that how Kirk runs in with department number of people pinging in, asking him how other solutions also need to be brought out. So I know for a fact that how things run at Lending Club as well. So with that being said, I would probably take the thought and then end the night. And I thank you all for joining this wonderful webinar.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you, Anand. Thank you, everyone. I know there are a couple of questions that are still there. Your recording will be available. Yes, so you should be. So if you're a member, you should have access. Yeah, you already typed it in chat. So perfect. So thank you all. So if you have any resources that you need to, I think all you need to do is just go to the website, and then once you log in, you should find all the resources as well. Perfect. Thank you.